Hi everyone, it's Jason Sansucci. It is Drone Safety Day, June 18th, 2022, and I'm here to share with you just a little bit about unmanned aircraft systems, UAS, or drones. Recently, I joined the FAA safety team as a drone pro. So I'm going to share one of the presentations that they made, UAS 101, with you today on Drone Safety Day. So let's get started. Today I'm going to tell you a little about unmanned aircraft systems, UAS or drones, explain why the FAA regulates drones, and then I'll cover some of the questions that people usually ask me about drones. But first, here's a little about me. Yes, I am a 3-time local Samuel Adams Stein hoisting champion. If you don't know Stein hoisting, that's where you hold out a liquid with your arm and hold it out for as long as you possibly can. I have spent 20 years as a remote sensing scientist and GIS scientist, have a nonprofit where we help neurodiverse students get careers in the drone industry. Currently chief architect at Juniper Unmanned, subject matter expert on drones, or the drone doctor at Blue Nose Aerial Imaging. I'm an ASBRS certified mapping scientist in UAS, certified GIS professional, certified neurodiversity professional. I am on the FAA safety team as a drone pro. And I also have a podcast called Do You Know Drones? So that's enough about me. But first, let's cover some basics. What is a UAS? A UAS or drone requires 3 main parts working together in order to function properly. The aircraft itself, that we are most familiar, the control station, including all its hardware and software, and a way for the control station to communicate with the aircraft. We call this command and control, or data link. Unmanned aircraft have been around for decades, and many of us know them by a variety of terms. Model aircraft, remote controlled aircraft, UAS, remotely piloted aircraft system, or RPAS, quadcopters, or drones. Regardless of their name or their size, which varies from ones that can fit into your hand to UAS weighing thousands of pounds, they're all aircraft. But they're unlike aircraft the FAA has been regulating for the past several decades. For one thing, there's just a lot more of them. Drones present issues of volume unlike anything the aviation world has ever seen. There are over 857,000 UAS registered with the FAA. There's about 3 times as many UAS as manned aircraft registered with the FAA. This gap will only continue to grow. We'll also see a difference in the pace of UAS. UAS go through product development cycles at a far faster pace than crewed aircraft, which can make it challenging to keep up with them. But the FAA has devoted numerous resources to integrating them because we know that the potential of this technology is limitless, and we want to ensure it's being harnessed safely. So why fly UAS? Drones can be used for many purposes. Historically, drones have been used to teach the basics of aerodynamics and inspire kids of all ages. But this technology is rapidly changing the way we work and the way we live. Drones can conduct inspections or provide situational awareness in places and environments that normally could not otherwise be done by people, including fire, chemical, and radioactivity. Drones are being used by the agricultural industry for small package delivery and for emergency response. According to drone responders, 75% of public safety agencies are pursuing a drone program. Why? Drones are far less expensive than crewed aircraft, and they can do the same job in a safer manner. Let's look at some headlines. These are just a few of the headlines about drones from the last month. At the FAA, we refer to these as drones for good stories, and it's exciting to see how this technology is benefiting society. So what is the FAA's authority? So why does the FAA care about drones? As I mentioned before, no matter how small these aircraft are, they're still aircraft. And when they're flown outside in what we refer to as the National Airspace System, the FAA has a responsibility to ensure it's done safely. The U.S. Congress has given the FAA the exclusive authority to manage the airspace and civil aircraft operations. This includes UAS, model aircraft, etc. From the surface to the edge of space. There are also state or local restrictions that can impact drone operations. The FAA is working to integrate and not segregate drones into the National Airspace System, or NAS. Integrating a new entrant like drones into the National Airspace System challenges existing processes, procedures, and policies. So the FAA's approach is incremental, collaborative, and holistic. Incremental. Rather than trying to achieve the most complex drone operations from the start, the FAA works with industry to incrementally approve more complex flights. Collaborative. The FAA works with government, industry, and academia to balance perspectives between stakeholders and leverage a wider variety of expertise. Holistic. By removing the pilot from the aircraft, we have to rethink our approach to risk. This applies to aircraft, the pilot, and airspace. And this must be considered holistically to avoid overburdening drone operations with requirements that don't improve safety. This facts and figures graphic provides a very high-level, short summary of drones in the US, as well as activities the FAA is taking to facilitate their safe integration. I also think it helps to demonstrate how drones are revolutionizing aviation. As I mentioned before, there are over 857,000 registered drones, and we expect that by 2025, we could have as many as 2.4 million commercial and recreational drones. This work is important because our communities can benefit from drone technologies, but we must ensure that other airspace users can continue their traditional operations. This UAS trends graphic gives you a better look at real-world applications for UAS and those outcomes. This depicts some of the ways society is benefiting from drones today, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. So what do I need to know? I could tell you more about what the FAA is doing to enable drone technology, but let's talk about how you can become part of the drone revolution. You can buy a drone and fly it under the exception for limited recreational operations of unmanned aircraft. This is the law that allows you to fly a drone for fun. For many of my colleagues, flying drones or model aircraft as a kid sparked a lifelong love affair with aviation. It's a great way to learn about the basics of flight and a fun hobby, but there are a few rules you need to be aware of. First, I need to note that a recreational flight is simply flying for fun or personal enjoyment. If the flight is conducted for any type of business or commercial purposes, the operator will need to be certificated as a remote pilot and follow the rules for remote pilots. That brings us to FAA Drone Zone. As a recreational flyer, the first thing you should do is set up an account on FAA's Drone Zone. In December of 2015, the FAA introduced an online registration system called the Drone Zone. It's a one-stop shop for registration and airspace authorization. Let's talk registration. It's required by law. Registration provides accountability and helps foster responsibility among drone operators. Remember, drones are aircraft, and operating in a shared airspace with helicopters, general aviation aircraft like a Piper Cub or a Cessna, and large commercial aircraft like a 737 or an A320. All drones weighing over 0.55 pounds or 249 grams must be registered with the FAA. Drones that weigh between 0.55 pounds and 55 pounds can be registered through Drone Zone. It costs $5 to register a recreational drone for the FAA for 3 years. If someone offers to register your drone for a higher price, it might be a scam. You must also be at least 13 years old to register a drone. If you purchase a drone for your child under the age of 13, an adult will need to complete the online registration. Note, recreational flyers are only required to register one drone. You can use the same registration number for all your drones that are flown for recreational purposes. This rule is a little different for non-recreational operations. So after you register your drone, you need to label your drone. The registration number must be labeled on the outside of the drone. You can do this with a label or a permanent marker. Why label your drone? Well, if you lose control and your drone goes down in a spot where you can't find it, someone who does find it might use that label to get it back to you. Recreational flyers are also now required to take an aeronautical knowledge and safety test. It's called the Recreational UAS Safety Test, or TRUST. TRUST has really good information for new recreational flyers. It's not that hard and takes less than 30 minutes. Upon successful passage of TRUST, the test administrator issues a certificate to the recreational flyer. Their certificate contains a random 15-digit alphanumeric token. The first 4 characters identify the test administrator. The test administrator provides the 15-digit alphanumeric token to the FAA. Neither the test administrator nor the FAA maintains personally identifiable information, or PII, about the recreational flyer. Recreational flyers are strongly encouraged to print and save their certificate. Neither the test administrator nor the FAA can reprint or reissue an original certificate. If it's lost, the recreational flyer must retake the test and get a new certificate. This law requires recreational flyers to carry proof of passage when flying. The FAA relies on qualified third parties to administer TRUST in order to make the test accessible and available to the largest possible audience. There are currently 18 different organizations that serve as FAA-approved test administrators, and TRUST is always offered for free. Let me say it again, it's a free test. The list of FAA-approved test administrators is on our website. If someone tries to charge you for a TRUST certificate, it's probably a scam. TRUST is available for free. This test is designed to provide recreational flyers of all ages with the minimum amount of information needed to begin flying, under the exception for limited recreational operations of unmanned aircraft. Yes, all ages. There's no age minimum for TRUST. The FAA encourages recreational flyers to expand their knowledge beyond what is required by TRUST. So TRUST will provide you with some airspace basics, but you need to know where you can and can't fly. Recreational flyers can fly in uncontrolled airspace, or Class G. In order to fly in controlled airspace, Class B, C, D, and E, an airspace authorization is needed. How do you know what airspace you're in? You can find out using the Before You Fly app. The FAA partnered with Aloft, formerly Kitty Hawk, to redevelop Before You Fly, the FAA's first mobile application that shows recreational drone operations where they can and cannot fly. The app provides situational awareness to recreational flyers and other drone users, but it doesn't allow users to obtain airspace authorizations to fly in controlled airspace. The Before You Fly app is available to download for free at the App Store for iOS and Google Play Store for Android. The app averages 700,000 airspace checks a month, and there have been over 15 million lookups so far. It's a great idea to check the airspace before every flight. From time to time, the FAA restricts the use of airspace. This is called a temporary flight restriction, or TFR. For example, when there's a wildfire, we restrict that airspace to facilitate the emergency response. Violating a TFR can slow or halt an emergency response, and no one wants to do that. It can also result in criminal and civil penalties. Just a few more rules that apply for flying for fun. You must keep your drone within your visual line of sight. If you're flying with goggles on, this is called first person view, or FPV. You need to have a visual observer who is co-located with you and communicate with you. Never interfere with and always give way to traditional or crewed aircraft. Recreational flyers must also keep their drone at or below 400 feet. There may be local laws or requirements that can impact how or where you fly, and there are rules about takeoff and landing from a public space. What are the laws that pertain to photography and recording? Those are things to check with local authorities about. Remember, you are operating an aircraft. You need to be ready to fly safely. Some over-the-counter medications can impact your reactions and response time, so be aware. And never fly if you're under the influence of drugs or alcohol. No drinking and droning. Lastly, why drone alone when you can join a club? There are a number of community-based organizations for all types of recreational flyers. Each organization offers safety guidelines designed to keep you and your drone flying. Plus, these organizations are a great way to meet others that share your passion and will help you improve your skills. For those of you that want to turn a passion for drones into a profession, you will need to become a certificated remote pilot. Certificated remote pilots fly according to specific FAA regulation, 14 Code of Federal Regulations Part 107. And this is the small UAS rule. So you may hear us refer to these pilots as Part 107 pilots. While there are more requirements for certificated remote pilots, the Part 107 regulations permits the pilot to conduct operations for business or commercial purposes. Part 107 allows for routine commercial use of drones under specific operating requirements and serves as a foundation for UAS rulemaking. While this rule is often being touted as being the commercial rule, there's no limitation on the type of operations that may be conducted under this rule. Recreational flyers can also operate under this rule, and in some cases, may find it to be a better fit for the type of operation they're conducting. But the reverse is not true. Commercial operators cannot fly under the exception for limited recreational operations of uncrewed aircraft. Government authorities can also operate under Part 107. When a strong safety case is documented, some aspects of the regulation can be waived to permit specific operations. The FAA has granted over 4,100 waivers for more complex Part 107 operations, all of which are posted on the FAA website. The rule was amended last year to permit routine operations over people and at night under certain circumstances. Although recreational flyers in Part 107 share some of the same rules, there are some important differences. Certificated remote pilots are required to register each drone individually. For drones under 55 pounds, this can be done through FAA's Drone Zone. The Part 107 regulation also outlines other requirements, including a maximum ground speed of 100 miles per hour, or 87 knots, a maximum altitude of 400 feet above ground level, AGL, or if higher than 400 feet AGL, remain within 400 feet of a structure commonly used for inspections. A minimum weather visibility of 3 miles from the control station, no carriage of hazardous materials, a pre-flight inspection is required, and requirements pertaining to external load and cargo. I mentioned some of the different classes of airspace. This graphic helps to depict how the FAA visualizes airspace. Generally speaking, anyone can fly a drone in uncontrolled or Class G airspace without permission from air traffic control. Flights in controlled airspace, Class B, C, D, and surface area Class E, require authorization from air traffic control. The Low Altitude Authorization and Notification Capability, or LAANC, automates the airspace authorizations within the confines of the UAS facility maps. This is a government industry data sharing initiative, so LAANC services are actually provided by third parties. There are currently 14 approved service providers, but only 8 have publicly available services. On July 23, 2019, LAANC was expanded to include recreational flyers, so both recreational flyers and Part 107 pilots can use LAANC. LAANC is now live at over 500 FAA air traffic control facilities throughout the country, covering over 700 airports. For locations that aren't covered by LAANC, airspace authorizations will need to be processed manually through the FAA's Drone Zone. LAANC is a component of the Unmanned Traffic Management, or UTM system. It's the first step to having a fully integrated air traffic management that integrates UAS with crewed aircraft. The FAA is working very hard to educate everyone about safe flying practices. You can help us make things better for everyone who wants to fly safely and responsibly. If you see someone flying their drone in a way that doesn't look safe, it's probably not. please report it to local law enforcement or your local Flight Standard District Office, or FSDO. If you're in the air or near an airport, you can call air traffic control. If the drone is endangering you or anyone else, dialing 911 is your best option. It helps the FAA's investigation to get as much detailed information as possible regarding the incident. Who, what, where, when, pictures, video, etc. The FAA collaborates closely with local law enforcement because we have different responsibilities and different jurisdictions. The FAA is responsible for aviation safety, which includes enforcing aviation-related laws and regulations like the Part 107 regulation. Local law enforcement agencies enforce locally adopted ordinance, which may cover areas such as trespassing and privacy. We work together to prevent, and if needed, respond to drone flights inside temporary flight restrictions, or TFRs. Violators are subject to criminal and civil penalties. I know I've shared a lot of information with you today, but there's a lot going on in the world of drones. As a quick recap, I'm going to share a video our Office of Communications prepared for this holiday drone buying season. Apologize for the unseasonal music. So if you're ready to become a part of the drone revolution, please connect with us. This is a segment of aviation that is changing so rapidly. We use social media to help communicate those changes. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we will catch you next time. Safe flying.